Hi guys, this is Miss Yandell, and we are already on week 2 of online English Lit from 1800. So this week already you've had 2 assignments. One was to watch the video on Romanticism. Before you finish this assignment that I'll be talking to you about in this video lecture this week, you really need to have watch the Romanticism video. In addition, you should at least have skimmed the information in the introduction to the preface to Lyrical Ballads, if not completely read the preface itself. Those bits of information, both the video and the preface, will help you and assist you in reading and analyzing literature from here on. In the next several weeks, we will be looking at romantic poetry and romantic writings, and it's essential to have an understanding about the movement itself and the ideas that support that movement that you will be identifying in the works that we'll be reading. Well, so today I want to draw your attention to a really interesting poem. I like it because the title of the poem is January 1795, and I think it's interesting because we are now January 2016, and this poem is a recounting of what this female poet from this time period wrote about in verse, about what she saw as she wandered the streets of London, etc. I think you're really going to enjoy the introduction to her. This author's name is Mary Robinson, and she had quite an interesting life, to say the least. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say about her life. And part of your discussion board response this week will incorporate both the ideas of Romanticism and the author's background with what she's saying. So I encourage you to read this poem. Sometimes reading it out loud helps you to hear the lyrical quality of the poem. This woman was very influenced by Shakespeare and had performed in Shakespearean plays. So it's no wonder that she had an ear for poetry and the way that it sounded, etc. So one thing I'm just saying to you is sometimes it helps to read the poem. And if you don't mind, I think I'm going to read it to you to kind of hear the rhythms of the speech as we go through it. And then I'm going to talk to you about what I'd like for you to do looking in your textbook when you get the opportunity, okay? So this is January 1795 by Mary Robinson. Pavement slippery, people sneezing, lords in ermine, beggars freezing, tilted gluttons, dainties carving, genius in a garret starving, lofty mansions warm and spacious, courtiers cringing and voracious, misers scarce the wretched heeding, gallant soldiers fighting, bleeding, wives who laugh at passive spouses, theaters and meeting houses, balls where simpering misses languish, hospitals and groans of anguish, arts and sciences bewailing, commerce drooping, credit failing, placemen mocking, subjects loyal, separations, weddings royal, authors who can't earn a dinner, many a subtle rogue a winner, fugitives for shelter seeking, misers hoarding, tradesmen breaking, taste and talents quite deserted, all the laws of truth perverted, arrogance or merit soaring, merit silently deploring, ladies gambling night and morning, fools the works of genius scorning, ancient dames for girls mistaken, youthful damsels quite forsaken, some in luxury delighting, more in talking than in fighting, lovers old and beaux decrepit, lordlings empty and insipid, poets, painters, and musicians, lawyers, doctors, politicians, pamphlets, newspapers, and odes, seeking fame by different roads, gallant souls with empty purses, generals only fit for nurses, schoolboys smit with marital spirit, taking place of veteran merit, honest men who can't get places, knaves who show unblushing faces, ruin hastened peace retarded, candor spurned, and art rewarded. What happens with romantic poetry often is that you hear the sing-songy nature of the poem, the way it's written. Did you hear that? The way that it sounds? And if you're not careful, it's very deceptive. It's easy to write off what they're saying. So carefully go through these poems and try to identify exactly what's going on. So I have some things for you to write down. As you look at this poem, I want you to think about who, what, where, when, and why. For those of you who have had any kind of journalism background, you know that these are investigative questions that we ask when we're wanting to glean information, additional information beyond perhaps what we see immediately. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to look at this poem and I want you to isolate who is here in this poem. If we painted a picture of this poem, or perhaps better, because there's so many people, if we created a film which depicted this poem, who would be present? So what characters does she tell us about? And I want you to list those out. I want you to really isolate who all of the people are in this poem. And then what, where, when, why. Okay, what's going on with them? What is their personal plight? What kind of people are they? And the who, the what, where, when, and why will help you understand. Not all of these people that are listed here are having great lives. Some of them are having a great time. Some of them have great difficulties. Some of them are very sad, if not utterly depressed. So I want you to go through here and really spend time looking at the lines of poetry and trying to identify, what is she trying to say? First of all, I believe it's best to start with the poem itself. Secondly, let's go with the contextual analysis. And so when we talk about contextual analysis, what we're talking about is going beyond the poem. Then we say, okay, what do we know about the author's life? And how does that inform our reading of this poem? And then we could say, what do we know about romanticism from the movie that we've watched? And how does that further inform our reading of this? You see, reading poetry and understanding literature goes far beyond your initial surface reading. That's just the beginning. Goodness knows, if we just read it and left it, people might say, that's interesting. I could almost see a picture. But it's when you stop and look at individual characters and look at what the author's saying, the word choices. Who are these people? And then we add in knowledge about the author herself, and then knowledge about the movement in which this is categorized, which is Romanticism. It further informs and enriches our understanding of the poem itself. So, your objective in this assignment is to connect the dots between the poem itself, really thinking about what kind of picture is she painting with these words and these lines. Secondly, beyond the poem itself, connect the dots to the author. How does the author connect to this piece? And thirdly, how does Romanticism inform this piece? What do I further know or learn about what she's writing? How does what she's writing represent Romanticism? All right, well, I hope that you enjoy this and have a great time. She's really fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing your responses on the discussion board. Have a good one.